I should never have opened the gates. The moment I stepped inside, I felt the air change. It pressed against me like a heavy blanket. The walls were alive. The shadows whispered my name. My heartbeat felt too loud, my hands too small to fight what was coming. And I realized I might never leave. I grew up in a small village at the edge of a dense forest. Life was simple. We farmed, fished, and helped each other. I can still remember the smell of smoke from evening fires, the laughter of children playing barefoot in the fields, and the rhythm of the drums during festivals. But there was one story everyone whispered, never shouted: the Forbidden Kingdom. They said it was built long ago by a king who wanted everything: wealth, power, and secrets no one was meant to know. No one who entered ever returned. I remember asking my mother about it. She only shook her head. "Stay away," she said. "Some places are not for us." Even as a child, I couldn't understand fear. The story fascinated me. I would lie awake, staring at the dark forest edge, imagining the gates, the glowing halls, the treasures, and the whispers that no one talked about. One evening, my grandfather handed me a folded, worn map. I traced the lines with trembling fingers. He didn't speak. He just looked at me with his deep brown eyes. Finally, he said, "Some doors are closed for a reason. If you open them, you will pay a price you cannot imagine." I didn't understand then. But curiosity had already taken root. I hid the map under my mattress and studied it every night. The lines seemed alive. Sometimes I could swear they moved when I wasn't looking. The path it showed twisted through forests, rivers, and hills toward the gates of the Forbidden Kingdom. I started noticing strange things. The wind sounded different when I walked in the forest. A bird would stop singing when I approached. The villagers' warnings echoed in my ears, but instead of scaring me, they made me want to go even more. I discovered old journals in my grandfather's chest. One belonged to a man who claimed he had seen the kingdom decades ago. He wrote about glowing halls, statues with eyes that followed him, and shadows that whispered his name. He ended the journal with a warning: "Curiosity is the chain that will bind you forever." I couldn't stop reading. The kingdom haunted my dreams. I began walking near the forest edge at night, pretending to look for firewood, but really I was imagining the gates. Weeks turned into months. Every sound in the night felt like it was calling me. Every shadow in the village seemed alive. I became obsessed. I started sketching the map repeatedly, trying to memorize every line. I studied the forest, noticing every twist, every river crossing. I spoke to no one about my plans. Even my closest friend didn't know. The forest itself seemed to test me. Leaves rustled behind me, footsteps echoed when I was alone, and at times I thought I heard voices whispering my name. I told myself it was the wind. But deep down, I knew the kingdom was alive. I waited for a night with a full moon. I packed a bag carefully: food, water, a knife, rope, and a small lantern. I left the village silently, careful not to wake anyone. The forest at night was alive. The trees towered above me. Every rustle of leaves made me jump. Every snapping twig sounded like footsteps following me. I whispered to myself, trying to stay calm. I found small signs that the forest itself had been waiting for me. Broken branches that looked like arrows pointing the way, strange glowing mushrooms along the path, shadows that seemed to move when I looked away. At one point, a sudden rustle in the bushes made me freeze. I raised my lantern. Nothing. Then I heard it. A soft whisper, my name. I spun around. Nothing. My heart hammered, but I pressed on. Finally, I reached the gates. They were massive. Stone towers carved with faces that seemed alive. Eyes that followed me as I approached. I could feel the cold metal of the gates beneath my fingers. As I pushed the gate, a cold wind rushed out. The whispers grew louder, more urgent. I almost turned back. Almost. Then curiosity pushed me forward. I stepped inside. The kingdom stretched endlessly. Buildings glowed faintly, covered in vines and moss. The streets were empty, but I could feel presence everywhere. Shadows moved along the edges of my vision. Every time I looked, nothing was there. The ground creaked under my feet, but no other footsteps echoed. I walked carefully, trying not to alert whatever was watching. A fountain shimmered in the courtyard. I leaned closer and saw faces screaming silently in the water. I explored building after building. Some contained treasures: gold, jewels, silk, fine fabrics. The air around them was thick, heavy, almost alive. I felt the weight of every treasure pressing down on me. In one hall, I found a library. The books were alive. Opening one, I saw someone like me entering the kingdom and never leaving. I slammed it shut, but the whispers grew louder. Shadows and whispers expanded. The shadows grew bolder. They whispered my deepest fears, my regrets, my curiosity. I realized the kingdom thrived on fear. It watched my every move. I saw silhouettes of people trapped in the walls, eyes wide in terror, mouths open in silent screams. At last I reached the throne room. A massive hall with ceilings I could barely see. The orb floated above the broken throne, glowing softly. It hummed, pulsed, whispered names. I saw faces in the orb, people who had entered before me. Some were screaming, some crying, some staring silently. I understood. The kingdom was alive. It fed on curiosity. And now it was judging me. I stepped closer. The orb called my name softly. Visions flashed before me, trapped souls, twisting halls, endless corridors. I could take the treasure, but the cost was clear. I would never leave. I stepped back. The orb pulsed, disappointed. And then I felt a hand on my shoulder. I ran. Corridors twisted endlessly, shadows mocking me. I tripped, fell, scrambled up. The gates appeared, brighter than ever. Sunlight touched the walls. I crossed them. I fell to the ground, shaking, gasping. Behind me, the kingdom vanished into mist. Back in the village, no one believed me. They laughed, said I had dreamed it all. But I know what I saw. Sometimes, at night, I hear whispers in the wind. I see shadows in my dreams, moving just like the kingdom. I avoid the forest. I avoid maps. But I know the kingdom is alive. It waits. Some doors are closed for a reason. Some secrets are too dangerous to uncover. Some kingdoms are alive. They watch. They remember. They wait. And they are patient.